Cyberpunk 2077 just touched down, and I pray to God you are not attempting to play this on a console because the shit just don't work. But anyway, we are running through crazy ass cities, toting crazy ass guns, doing crazy ass missions, having fun with the ladies, getting fucked up by the police. God damn it, let's go. In this video, we'll be discussing Cyberpunk 2077, such a polarizing game. I'll be talking a bit about what went wrong and really what went right, because I think there's a lot that this game has to offer, as well as everything the entire industry is slamming it for. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Ramon, also known as Uncle Rizza around these parts. And on this channel, we just do any and everything gaming. So feel free to hit that like button halfway through if you like what you hear, and subscribe if you want to stick around. Usually, I don't like to start off reviews with the negative side of things, but there's so much that went wrong with Cyberpunk. I think it's really something I should put forward, and I want everyone to know, sort of a disclaimer for those of you who are interested in getting this game or sort of on the fence if it's worth your money. There are the obvious performance issues, right? And that's sort of the, let's say, the popular thing to attack with Cyberpunk. Number one, it does not run at all on older consoles. Let's call them last gen consoles now, because I think they are. The P5 and the Xbox Series X are on the market now. So yeah, the Xbox One and the PS4 are now demoted down to previous gen. How about that? Yeah, it doesn't run on those consoles. It is I've been hearing a lot of people saying it's been broken. I disagree with that. For something to be broken, it had to have been running at one point, and this game came out the gate just not running. So yeah, that's worth a lot of negative energy toward this studio. You just can't put it out there. I think the decision should have been just to either delay the game altogether, and if they didn't want to do that because they had multiple delays during the year already, at least stagger the delay on the last gen consoles. It would have been a painful bullet to bite, but it could have been avoided, the backlash that we're seeing now. That's something to note. On the current gen, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, this game does not have a native SKU. What that means is it's pretty much running a backward compatibility version, or backwards compatible version of the game, of the last gen. So I kind of don't like that. And of course, the experience on the P5 and the Xbox Series X is acceptable, but it's even that's still kind of a bad taste in the mouth of people who ran out there and bought that new hardware. They're not getting what they paid for all of that horsepower. On the PC, the game is a little suspect, but it can run. There's some notable things that you need to know. For instance, if you don't have a DLSS, my God, enable card, you're in for a world of hurt. And DLSS, can anybody say that fast? DLSS is NVIDIA's iteration of artificial intelligence doing a lot of the upfront heavy lifting, and it does work. I will say it does work, and it does give a very pleasing result. But if you've got like a 980 Ti or something like that, or even a 1080 Ti, which is a very popular card, you are in for a world of hurt. So yeah, it kind of sucks to see a game like this come out and really have so many performance disadvantages. I guess you can draw a comparison to a game like Crysis, right? Where Crysis was kind of the poster child for the PC master race, and you would hear these conversations about, yeah, but can it run Crysis? I think it's important to understand that Crysis sort of worked. You just couldn't run it at high settings, right? It was a totally acceptable experience if you ran it on medium or low, whatever you had at the time, but it ran. Even on medium or low, this game is still sort of suspect. And then there's the bugs. The game is buggy as all hell. I think this topic has been beat to death, and I really want to zoom out and look at what went wrong in this game from a sort of a bird's eye view. But you can't ignore the bugs. You just type it in. You get hit the YouTube search and type in Cyberpunk 2070 bugs. You will see madness. What I will say is, on the PC, I have not experienced too many game breaking bugs, almost none, but I've experienced some bugs, but I wouldn't say anything that stood out more than any other game I've played. But I really need to be honest. Even Nigel's playing this thing on a 3090, and he's ran into a game breaking bug where one of the missions, the van where he needs to get into with Judy to progress the mission, just didn't spawn in. Right, so although I didn't have that experience, I'm not willing to sweep it under the rug, because so many other people are having game breaking bugs experiences, and it's really a shame. When I sat down to really structure this review, I did not want to approach it like every other gaming outlet out there for a few reasons, but I think this game is such a fascinating story. Not the storyline of the game itself, but the contributing factors to how this game came to be, and really what we're looking at today. And there's a few things I have in my notes that I want to share with you guys, and I'm really excited to open up the floor, especially in the comment section, for you guys to hammer in on each of these points, because I think it touches each of us as gamers, but we all have our sensitivity to things. First is something that I see in the gaming industry so much, and I really hate it, and that's developers or game studios. Really, I think it's game studios, because I don't think developers are happy to do this. It's the over enthusiasm to share a game, or what a game is, or what it could be, or what it should be, or even a launch date. This is something that really annoyed the hell out of me, especially when I'm looking back at the Final Fantasy remake, where they showed this thing at E3 like 3 years in a row, and each year the crowd goes wild. It's like, yeah, but what is this? Where is it? When is it coming out? And it just kept getting pushed back. It was so annoying to see the game studios and the developers were being rewarded for absolutely nothing. They didn't show anything. All we had was just pretty gameplay, which is always nice to see, but just release that shit in a trailer and move on with life. You know, I don't need to see this and all of these fantastic behind the scenes interviews and oh, this game is gonna be epic and blah blah blah, and then it comes out and it's like, what the fuck happened? We allowed these developers to drum up this narrative of greatness way before they even, one, finished the game, or two, had an idea what the game would be, because it's really and truly a different story to put something down on paper and structure, and then halfway through that, it's an entirely different story as to what it becomes, because you're faced with the limitations of what you can do with the technology. You're faced with the limitations of what you can execute with your resources of your staff. There's so many things that can take a really grandiose idea and turn it into a fraction of what it was, and oftentimes that's okay, right? Like, keep that stuff behind the scenes. I don't mind developers aiming for the moon and really just landing up somewhere in the stratosphere, but that's okay. I just don't want to see it, because now I'm forced to hold this game studio accountable for the vision that they sold me. It isn't fair to me, and I'm not going to say it's fair to the game developers, because they're the ones selling the vision. But yeah, that's where we end up. And I think we allowed this studio, based on their pedigree with something like The Witcher 3, which is such a huge hit for a lot of the gaming industry, we allowed them to ride high on that and pretty much sell us whatever it was they were selling with Cyberpunk. I mean, this thing was announced before the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One even came out. It's been in development for several years, and which really is atrocious that it doesn't run on the game or the console cycle it was announced for. That's, yeah, wow. Holy shit, now I find myself feeling like a fool for buying into the hype, and this is what I'm left with. And to take that notion even farther, we as gamers, we take whatever they're peddling, and then we go out and we really latch on to this early bird behavior where we want to be culturally part of the it crowd that pre-ordered Cyberpunk. And it's such a status symbol. Yeah, I dropped my money, I can't wait for that. Like, stop doing that. What we're doing is we're reinforcing the developers' enthusiasm to share essentially nothing and be rewarded for it. We are allowing them to count their eggs before it hatched. And we had a very in-depth podcast on this channel about that. I'll link it in the description below, where we said, we need to stop pre-ordering games. We need to stop allowing these developers to go down that dangerous path of relying on pre-ordered games and knowing that they already made back the operational cost of the game before it's even shipped. And I think there's a direct correlation to this behavior, or enabling this behavior, and receiving these broken ass unfinished games that we've been getting. It's a shame that Cyberpunk 2077 was delivered to us in the state that it was. And it's really, as a business, looking at the CD Projekt Red, they couldn't give two lesses of a fuck. They already made their money, and now it's about coming back and cleaning up and tidying up. And like, nah, fam, stop enabling that shit. Now we're sitting out here on the sideline becoming patch notes experts. You know, people are like, oh, I've got this bug. Well, what are you running, version 4 or 105 or 10? Wait till patch 107 comes out. It's supposed to be a really big, like, fuck that. Going back to a lot of the material that was released by CD Projekt Red over the last, I'd say, year to 2 years, they did a lot of emphasis on the choices you make, those life choices in the game. And I think everyone really hammered in on that, because that was their pedigree when talking about a game like The Witcher, right? So this is not something they're making up on a whim. They've got great experience doing this. And it really sucks to see that no matter which of the 3 life paths you choose in this game, it ultimately varies the storyline a lot less than you think it would, or a lot less than it was advertised. There are some dope moments where you get to select a snarky response because you are a corporal or a street kid. I have not played the Nomad as yet. I'm currently 40, I think I put 40 something hours in the corporal. I put another 10 into street kid. I'll probably start the Nomad, put another 5 or so hours into that. But I'm quickly learning that the decisions I make don't really affect too much the direction of the game, and really it sucks to see that, because no matter how laissez-faire I play the game, how careless I am with the choices, everything still looks familiar from my last playthrough. So that's kind of a very disappointing thing to see. Then that brings me over to the AI. It's bad. It sucks. Whether it be the behavior of the NPCs in the world or in combat, it's just nothing close to what we were promised and what was advertised. I read somewhere, it was a CD Projekt Red blog or something like that, where they said there were like thousands of NPCs that had handcrafted routines during the day, Yeah, fuck out of here, fam. You're lying. These motherfuckers are just walking around doing nothing. They're NPCs that kind of stand around. Not your average NPC that's just walking around, but like net runners is what they're called. They seem to be highly elevated characters in the game, and the regular NPCs sort of interact with that, and they're looking to get things shady shit done, or even the police just hanging around talking about police politics. They're there 24 hours a day talking about the same shit. That doesn't seem very handcrafted to me. It's quite annoying to see it, actually. And I think they really fell short there. The police system in the game is very, very strange. I get it, it's the future, and if you look at something like Minority Report, where there's some bit of foreshadowing and they'll figure out when a crime's about to happen and show up as it's happening, I give them a little leeway on that here. It is the future, it is cyberpunk. Perhaps in this world, police just do have a fucking teleportation device, but Jesus Christ, do they really just need to keep spawning behind me? Like, it's such a game, or let me not say game breaking, but immersion breaking part of that system that just leaves a lot to be desired. And then there's, you know, coupling the police system with the AI, they're fucking dumb as shit. Like, they only show up when you do something that's deemed as wrong, right? So we're talking like if you point your gun at someone, at a civilian, like you ADS at a aim down sight at a civilian, you get this warning that says you're doing something wrong, fam, and you keep doing this, the cops is going to show up. Okay, fine, I'll take that. Or you open fire on a random crowd or anywhere, the warning level just goes boom and the cops spawn in. But like, what about driving? What about running a stoplight at 150 miles an hour? They don't show up, and you can do this past cops that are posted up and they do nothing. What about patrolling the streets? The cops do not patrol the streets. The only time you see cop cars are when they're just parked up, barring you from areas you can't go, or you see them driving around in cutscenes, story-based cutscenes. It's just so much that's left to be desired with the police system, and then tying it together with the AI shit. When you're fighting the police, they're just dumb as rocks. They're WoW OP, so they'll, no matter how strong you are, they're gonna fuck you up. But also, they kind of like see you behind walls type of shit, or sometimes they'll just get stuck right in front of you looking at you, not shooting, and then you can just run 2 blocks away and the warrant or wanted system just cools down, it goes away. Like, what is happening here? There are some skill tree issues, just a ton of things to do in the skill tree, a lot left to be desired, a lot of skills sort of overlap. There's just a vast feeling of unfinishedness here. For me, the biggest cardinal sin here, what went wrong with Cyberpunk, really doesn't have anything to do with Cyberpunk itself. This is the gaming industry and how they handled this game. Like you guys, you know, we're such a small channel. We don't get these games early. We don't get access to open betas. That's reserved for the big guys, the IGNs of the world, the GameSpots of the world. And really, as this game started to appear on my radar, I said, okay, I'll buy into the hype. I missed the Grand Theft Auto. It's about time I enjoy an open world, and the cyberpunk thing, the futuristic look, I think was such a dope angle and something I was willing to explore. I would listen to these 15, 20, 30 minute long videos from IGN and other really renowned journalistic outlets about how great this was and how they were making life-changing choices and how the game is beautiful. All of that shit was fucking off. All of it. Every fucking bit of it. And the more I play this game, there's this thing about the game where in the first 5 hours of the game, depending on where you play it, again, my experience on a PC was not really like everyone else's. It was a lot of polish, and then it started to fall apart. So maybe I could say, hey, they only let them play the polished version, the polished sections of the game. But then if they only played that little bit, how in the fuck were they forming these long scathing articles and opinions on how they've expanded on the life choices from Witcher? They have not. They did not. It's so disappointing to see. Can we trust these fucking journalistic outlets? Are they even journalistic outlets anymore? Or they're just gaming YouTube channels out here playing the game, playing for favor, playing for money, and I hate that conversation when people say, you can't trust any of these YouTube channels because they're all shills. They all get paid to do this. This is such a strong and inexcusable and something I cannot ignore example of why that argument has credence. You motherfuckers, the game came out and it got 9s across the fucking board. And from the minute I saw the review, the first thing I heard was a red flag. Hey, this review is totally our own opinion, but CD Projekt Red would not allow us to use our own gameplay footage. Like, what? Why are you doing the review then? What does this even mean? And surely, what was in the darkness came to light. It's fucking disheartening to see this. And I look at someone like ACG, and I respect the fuck out of this dude. He was on some like, well, fuck you then. Nah, fam, you keep your CD code, your product key. I don't need that. I'll get the game when I get the game, and I'll do my review how I want to do my review. And this is something that Snow pointed out to me. Once I latched onto it and I started to look at it from his point of view, it is fucking saddening that the gaming industry was fanboying and lying about this game, and then we all got the truth, and very little people are going back, or maybe I'm just not seeing it. The backlash all seems to be on CD Projekt Red, but the backlash and the accountability should also fall on these gaming outlets that aided in misleading us to what this game is. Before I continue on to the enjoyable parts of the game, because like I said, my experience wasn't like many and I did enjoy the game for the most part, I really want to put you guys in the driver's seat. I want you guys to tell me what part of that quote unquote what went wrong section of the review really pissed you off. Which part of that hammered it home for you? Which part of that did you get hit by the most? Was it the performance issue? Was it the letdown in the open worldness that really does feel lifeless? Was it the broken ass police system? Was it the choices that the narrative that was allowed to be driven home for years on end? Was it the fucking lying of the entire game industry? Like, what part of this really grinded your gears? Now then, the graphics. Holy shit, the game is beautiful. I mean, I'm running on a 2070, and I can get away with pretty much almost everything on Ultra with relying on DLSS turned down to, or turned up to performance, depending on how you look at that. And I'm running it a solid 60 frames, anywhere around there. It can take a dip to about 55 frames in the density of the city, but it is a beautiful game. The way the world is crafted, it doesn't feel like a cookie cutter open world game. There's a lot of randomness to the way the streets and the buildings are crafted, but also a structure that's familiar to anyone that actually lives in a city. That's beautiful to see. Although the NPCs are fucking lifeless, when you're on your way to just doing your missions and going about your way, even though they are lifeless, the NPCs and the traffic is not about shit. It does add to a pretty good feeling of a world being alive at first glance that I think is passable for me. But yeah, the graphics are beautiful, man. The buildings, the lighting, the ray tracing, the fog in the atmosphere, steam. They really did a great job at crafting something beautiful. In that regards, I think it's an optimistic version of Crysis, where the more hardware and raw power you can throw at this game in the future, the more beautiful it becomes. I really do have some excitement to see where it'll go from here, because each patch that they released have given me a better and better performance, and the game looks a little more beautiful with every patch. And I can't wait to see what the modding community will get in there and really start to do. Great execution on the graphics. The sound is okay. It can be glitchy at times, but it does sound like there's a teeming world around you. The voice acting is great. I love the characters. I love the randomness of some of the conversations, albeit they're not as random as I would like to hear. I think Grand Theft Auto and even something like Watch Dogs has a lot more of that random conversation thing going on, but it's totally acceptable, totally dope to me. The characters are fucking well done, and I'm not talking NPCs, I'm talking main characters and side quest characters. To be honest with you, a lot of the side quest characters are amazing. They're quite frankly better than some of the main quest characters, but I really do enjoy fully being immersed in the world of these side quest characters. Very interesting, great voice acting. It makes you want to dive off of the path, and I understood this was a big part of Witcher as well. You would get lost in these side quests because the characters were so interesting. A lot of that's here as well. The photo mode in this game is quite amazing, and this is something that I'll probably be doing a separate video on. And for those of you who are not aware, we have a podcast on our main channel, which is Lifestyles Defined. We're going to be diving in a little deeper into the photo section of this of this game. So this game is so beautiful, and the photo mode is so immersive. As a photographer myself, shameless plug, maybe I'll leave the link to my photography channel below. Why not? Come on, fellas, check me out. A lot of my techniques in terms of storytelling and composition are easily executable here. It's amazing. I've gone down this crazy rabbit hole of just playing the game just to capture moments in photography, and now I'm well aware of this new up and coming subgenre of photography called virtual photography. So yeah, it's a job well done. They're really, the graphics and really the details that they put into this world has come together beautifully in the photography mode. I can't say enough good things about it. And I mean, overall, it is a solid fucking game. My experience, and Snow had to check me on this, because when people first started to complain, I was like, well, just buy better shit. I don't know, fuck you console people. But that wasn't fair, because this game was supposed to be released on the last gen consoles, and it's not fair that they can't have a good experience. And I feel like a lot of the performance hindrances are directly tied to the storyline and the immersion, and I've been fortunate and privileged enough where I haven't had much of that game breaking immersion, and it's been a pretty good experience for me. The storyline is enjoyable. I quite like it. And for those of you who know me, this ain't my cup of tea, but I'm well over 60 hours in this game. There's a lot to be said for that, right? I did enjoy it, even with the graphical annoyances on my end, which aren't much. I did enjoy it even though the AI isn't what they promised. It's good enough. I did enjoy it even though the police is on some fuck shit. I can deal with that. The shooting mechanics are great, especially for an RPG, which it's interesting because I think CD Projekt Red changed the narrative. It's no longer RPG, it's an action. I don't even know what they call it, but yeah, there's a lot of deep things in there. Upgrading guns, crafting guns, a lot of that Destiny type stuff that's in there that I really do enjoy. It was fun for me. If I had to give this game a rating from my personal standpoint, I would say it is a very enjoyable game, and it is a game that was worthy of the time that I put into it. Before I finish up the review, I want to throw it out there. If you guys enjoyed it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You know, we don't do many videos here. You're not going to see 3 videos a week from us because we have now rolled back to the quality over quantity mantra. So we try to make sure whatever videos hits the subscriber feed, that it's a video worth watching, it's entertaining, it's value added, and it's something worth it for you guys. So if that's what you're on board for, hit that subscribe button, fam, and hit the bell so you know when the videos actually do come out, because a lot of our subscribers we see in the comments are like, wait, you guys crunching out videos, we had no idea. Hit that notification bell, man. But yeah, Cyberpunk 2077 is a very enjoyable game, albeit it was not the game that was advertised. It falls short in many key areas, but it's still great. Currently, I think it's a solid game. It's worth playing if the platform you're going to play it on avoids a lot of the performance hindrance. To sum it up, I think it's this game doesn't do anything new, right? It doesn't really push any boundaries. It's an open world game through and through. It's got RPG elements we've already seen. It's got story elements and tropes that we're used to, and it kind of all comes together in a very charismatic way and some nice pizzazz on top, and it can invoke a lot of fanfare, but it has its problems. And today, personally, it's a good game for me, but for the general gamer, it is not. This game requires that you do your homework to know what you're getting into, to know where the annoyances are, to know that you have to exercise some patience while the developer circles back to A, make good on the promises that they promised, and B, clean up a lot of the fuck shit that we're seeing. Ultimately, Cyberpunk 2077 is a reminder to not reward these game studios for the bullshit rhetoric that they're spewing, but also reward these game studios and let's put games like Grand Theft Auto on the pedestal because they executed on what they promised. It's such a wake-up call to the rest of the industry. Don't let them pull you down this rabbit hole because they did something you approved of in the past. Every game developer, every person, professional, no matter who you are, what you do, you need to deliver on your current project. It is not acceptable for you to throw garbage in front of my feet because you were once great. Fuck that. Am I recommending this game? No, absolutely not. But if you have to, do your research and it can pay off. It can be a beautiful game. My name is Ramon, also known as Uncle RZA around these parts. I'm out of here, fam. Peace.